It's something we've all done without even thinking. You leave a bar, a party, a friend's place. It's late. You're tired. So you pull out your phone and call a ride. A car pulls up just like it's supposed to. You open the door, get in the back seat, and exhale. But what if that car isn't the one you ordered? What if, somewhere in the quiet space between safety and danger, someone is watching, waiting, hunting for a moment just like this? That's exactly what happened to 21-year-old Samantha Josephson, a brilliant college senior just weeks away from graduation, whose future was filled with promise, law school, world travel, a life carefully built with purpose. But on one spring night in 2019, a simple mistake changed everything. She got into the wrong car. A black Chevy Impala she thought was her Uber. What happened next wasn't random. It was predatory, calculated, vicious. In just a matter of minutes, a safe ride home turned into a nightmare that would shake the nation and ignite a powerful movement that's still saving lives today. This is the story of a young woman's final ride, the monster who waited for her in the dark, and the heartbreaking moment when trust turned deadly. This is the story of Samantha Josephson. And it all started with one click on a rideshare app. To really feel the weight of the tragedy that happened in March 2019, you first have to know about the brilliant life that was stolen. Samantha Lee Josephson, or Sammy to her friends and family, was the very picture of a bright future. Growing up in the small, tight-knit town of Robbinsville, New Jersey, she was known for her ambition, her smarts, and a personality that just drew people in. Her parents, Marcy and Seymour Josephson, remember a daughter who wasn't just kind and hardworking. She had a fierce drive to make her mark on the world. From the time she was little, it was clear Sammy was going to do big things. She was a planner, a dreamer, and most importantly, someone who made things happen. When she set her heart on going to the University of South Carolina for college, her parents felt that classic mix of pride and worry that comes with sending your kid to another state. They talked to her about safety like all parents do. And ironically, they encouraged her to use rideshare services as a smart precaution, seeing it as the responsible choice for a young woman living far from home. At USC, Sammy didn't just survive, she thrived. She majored in political science, a perfect fit for her sharp mind and her interest in how the world works. She wasn't just another student, she was a beloved part of the campus community. She joined the Alpha Gamma Delta sorority, building the kind of deep friendships that make college so memorable. Her curiosity about the world was huge. She jumped at the chance to study abroad in Barcelona, using her time in Europe to explore places like Madrid and Paris, soaking it all in. Friends from that time remember her as fun, adventurous, and the kind of person who lit up a room with her energy and smile. But under that fun-loving personality was an incredible amount of focus. By her senior year in 2019, Sammy was right on the edge of making a dream come true. She'd been accepted into law school at Drexel University with a full scholarship, proof of just how brilliant and hardworking she was. She even had a partial scholarship from Rutgers, so she had options. It was clear her hard work had paid off in a big way. Her goal was to practice international law, perfectly blending her love for travel with her legal mind. She was just weeks from graduation. Her cap and gown were waiting. Her family was planning their trip to come celebrate with her. Her future wasn't some far-off idea. It was real, meticulously planned, and about to happen. She had done everything right. She was on the exact path she had imagined for herself, a path she built with dedication and smarts. The world was at her feet. In every sense of the word, Samantha Josephson was a success story in the making, about to start the next extraordinary chapter of her life. The Five Points District in Columbia, South Carolina, is the beating heart of the city's nightlife, especially for USC students. On Thursday night, March 28, 2019, it was buzzing with that familiar energy of an early start to the weekend. The streets were filled with music, laughter, and groups of friends hopping between bars and restaurants. Sammy Josephson was one of them, out with her roommates, just enjoying a normal night in her last semester of college. The evening was normal. It was a scene you could find on any college campus in the country. Friends laughing, sharing stories, making memories. As the night wound down and the bars started to empty out in the early hours of Friday, March 29th, Sammy got separated from her group. It happens all the time in a crowded place. Thinking her friends had already gone home, she did what anyone would do. Around 2 a.m., she pulled out her phone and ordered an Uber. And this is the moment where an ordinary night took a horrific turn. Standing alone on the curb, Sammy waited. A few moments later, a black Chevy Impala pulled up. In the dark, maybe just assuming that any car arriving that quickly must be the right one, Sammy opened the back door and got in. It was a simple mistake, a brief lapse in the safety checks we're all told to make. She was tired, she was alone, and she just wanted to get home. The car pulled away from the curb and vanished into the Columbia night. But this wasn't her Uber. The driver wasn't her driver. His name was Nathaniel Rowland. And as the Impala drove off, the child safety locks in the back doors were engaged. Samantha Josephson was trapped. Her short, familiar trip home had just turned into a terrifying abduction. Escape was impossible. What should have been a 5-minute ride was now the beginning of a nightmare, orchestrated by a predator who had been circling the area, just waiting for someone to make one small, fatal mistake. When the sun came up on Friday morning, Sammy's friends started to worry. She wasn't home. Calls to her phone went straight to voicemail. Texts went unread. That initial worry quickly morphed into real panic. Her roommates knew how responsible she was. She would never just vanish. They called the police and Samantha was officially reported missing. The news ripped through the USC campus in her hometown in New Jersey. Her family, living every parent's worst nightmare, rushed to Columbia to help with the search. Her father, Seymour, appeared on camera, his face etched with pure terror, pleading with the public for any information about his bright, loving daughter. The whole community rallied. Friends, classmates, and even strangers shared her picture all over social media, hoping someone somewhere had seen something. For the Columbia Police Department, the clock was ticking. They started right where Sammy was last seen, 5 points. Their first big break came from surveillance cameras in the area. The grainy black and white footage told a chilling story. It showed Sammy on the sidewalk looking at her phone. And then the critical moment, a dark 4-door sedan, a black Chevy Impala, pulling up to the curb. The video clearly showed Sammy getting into the back of that car before it drove off. This was their one and only lead and they threw everything they had at it. They identified the make and model of the car and immediately sent pictures of it to the public and to every law enforcement officer in the region. The search for a black Chevy Impala became the absolute focus of the investigation. Just over a day later, the agonizing search came to a devastating end. On Friday afternoon, about 65 miles away from Columbia, a group of turkey hunters in a remote, wooded part of Clarendon County found something horrific. Deep in the woods, far off any main road, they discovered the body of a young woman. The authorities were called, and the worst fears of the Josephson family and the entire USC community were confirmed. It was Sammy. It was a scene of unimaginable violence. It was obvious this wasn't a robbery gone wrong. It was a brutal homicide. An autopsy would later reveal the true horror of her final moments. Sammy had fought for her life, leaving defensive wounds on her hands and body. But the attack was relentless. She had been stabbed around 120 times with a sharp, two-bladed weapon. A pathologist later determined she would have died within 10 to 20 minutes. With the discovery of Sammy's body, a missing person case had become a full-blown murder investigation. The focus on that black Chevy Impala became even more intense. Then, early Saturday morning, just hours after she was identified, a patrol officer in Columbia spotted it. The officer tried to pull the car over, but the driver, Nathaniel Rowland, jumped out and tried to run. He was caught almost immediately. When investigators searched the car, the evidence was damning. The whole interior reeked of bleach, a sloppy, desperate attempt to destroy evidence. But he hadn't cleaned it well enough. Both the passenger area and the trunk were saturated with large amounts of Sammy's blood. Her cell phone was found inside. The child locks on the back doors were still engaged. They had their man. The arrest of Nathaniel Rowland was the end of the search, but it was the beginning of a long, painful journey toward justice. For Sammy's family, it meant enduring a courtroom nightmare, where they were forced to relive the horrific details of her death over and over again. The trial kicked off in July 2021. The prosecution laid out an airtight case, piece by piece, built on a mountain of undeniable forensic evidence. Their strategy was to walk the jury through every single step of the crime, from the moment Sammy was abducted to the moment Rowland was arrested, leaving no room for any doubt. The courtroom fell silent as prosecutors played the surveillance footage that started it all. The jury saw Sammy, alive and unsuspecting, get into that black Chevy Impala. Then they heard from the forensic experts who had torn that car apart. Even though Rowland had tried to scrub the car with bleach, the science told the real story. Experts confirmed the blood that soaked the car's interior was Samantha Josephson's. Her DNA and hair were found not only in the car but also on a multi-tool knife that had been tossed in a trash can at his girlfriend's home. This was the murder weapon, a cruel, two-bladed instrument that matched her horrific wounds. Maybe the most powerful testimony came from Rowland's ex-girlfriend. She took the stand and told the court that she saw Rowland cleaning his car with bleach the morning after Sammy disappeared. She also saw blood inside the vehicle. Coming from someone who knew him personally, her testimony was a devastating blow to the defense. Prosecutors also showed that Rowland had tried to sell Sammy's iPhone the day after he killed her, a cold, calculated attempt to profit from his crime. Throughout the trial, Rowland just sat there, showing almost no emotion as the horrible details of what he did were laid bare. His defense team didn't have much to work with. They didn't call any witnesses and Rowland didn't testify. Their main argument was that since Rowland's DNA was also at the scene, maybe someone else was involved or he was being framed. They tried to poke holes in the state's case, suggesting evidence was mishandled. But the prosecution shut those claims down easily. Of course, the killer's DNA would be at the crime scene. The sheer amount of evidence, the blood, the phone, the weapon, the testimony from his own girlfriend, all pointed to one person, Nathaniel Rowland. The prosecution argued that he had acted like a predator, using his car as a trap. He had turned on the child locks, making sure she had no way out once she realized her terrible mistake. For Sammy's family, the trial was an exercise in pure endurance. They sat through every moment, listening to the graphic descriptions of the violence their daughter suffered. Her mother, Marcy, delivered a heart-wrenching victim impact statement, describing the hole in my heart and the unending pain of losing her daughter. She talked about a young woman full of dreams, whose future was stolen by an act of unimaginable cruelty. The evidence was so overwhelming that it took the jury just over an hour to make a decision. Guilty. On all charges, kidnapping, murder, and possession of a weapon. The courtroom nightmare was over. Justice finally had been served. With the guilty verdict in, it was up to State Circuit Judge Clifton Newman to hand down the sentence. This was the moment Nathaniel Rowland would be held accountable for his monstrous actions. The prosecution asked for the toughest penalty allowed in South Carolina: life in prison with no chance of parole. Before the sentence was announced, Rowland was given a chance to speak. In a stunning, final act of defiance, he stood up and claimed his innocence. He didn't offer a single word of remorse to the grieving family. Instead, he just said, "I know I'm innocent, but I guess what I know doesn't matter." His words were a hollow denial against a mountain of proof. But Judge Newman wasn't moved. In a powerful rebuke, the judge looked right at Rowland and called him heartless, and said he had a depraved heart. Judge Newman, a veteran judge, said it was the most severe murder case he had ever seen. He talked about the evidence that showed Sammy fighting for her life, leaving Rowland's DNA under her fingernails. He described the terror she must have felt, trapped in that car. "For whoever asked me for leniency," Judge Newman said, his voice firm, "that's not part of my DNA." Then he delivered the sentence: life in prison. No possibility of parole. Nathaniel Rowland would spend the rest of his life behind bars, ensuring he could never hurt another person or another family again. For Sammy's family, the sentence wasn't a reason to celebrate, but it was a final, somber confirmation that the man who stole their daughter's future was being held responsible. Though Rowland later tried to appeal his conviction in August 2024, claiming evidence was gathered improperly, the South Carolina Court of Appeals shut him down. They found no errors in the trial and said the evidence against him was overwhelming. The verdict and the life sentence were final, closing the legal chapter on this devastating case for good. The end of the trial wasn't the end of Samantha Josephson's story. In the middle of their grief, her parents, Marcy and Seymour, made a courageous choice. They decided to turn their pain into a powerful force for change, to make sure their daughter's death meant something. They refused to let her be defined by her final moments. Instead, they built a lasting legacy of safety and awareness that continues to protect people all over the country. Just weeks after Sammy's murder, her family started the hashtag What's My Name Foundation. The name itself is a call to action, reminding everyone of the most important question you can ask a rideshare driver. The foundation's mission is simple but powerful: to teach people about rideshare safety and to push for stronger laws to protect passengers. Seymour Josephson quit his job to work on the foundation full-time, traveling the country to share Sammy's story and a clear safety checklist. That checklist is called SAMMY: Stop, Ask, Match, Inform. Stop. Take a second to check what's around you. Ask the driver, "What's my name?" to make sure they have your trip details. Match the license plate, car, and driver's photo to what's in your app. Inform: share your trip details with a friend or family member through the app. Their work has led to real change. In South Carolina, the Samantha L. Josephson Ride-Sharing Safety Act was passed, which requires rideshare cars to have light-up signs. Her home state of New Jersey passed a similar Sammy's Law. These laws have inspired other states to improve their own safety standards. The tragedy also forced companies like Uber and Lyft to step up. They've since added new safety features like in-app panic buttons, PIN codes to verify your ride, and better trip-sharing functions. While no technology is perfect, these changes, which happened because of the national outcry after Sammy's death, have added critical layers of security for millions of people. Samantha Josephson was posthumously given her political science degree from the University of South Carolina, a tribute to the life she lived and the future she earned. But her real legacy is in the work of the What's My Name Foundation and in the millions of people who now think twice before getting into a car. Her story is a heartbreaking reminder of a vibrant life cut short, but it's also a testament to how a family's love can create positive change out of immense pain. Because of them, Samantha's name is now a symbol of safety, a guiding light that helps bring others home, safe and sound. The fight for rideshare safety that Sammy's story started is still going. Her family's What's My Name Foundation works every day to educate people and prevent this kind of tragedy from ever happening again. You can support their mission and learn the crucial safety steps every rider needs to know by visiting their website. The information there isn't just advice, it's a legacy born from tragedy with the power to save lives. Remember her name and remember the steps that can make sure you always get home safe.